just going to make sure this internet doesn't go off. But I hope you're doing well. Today is Holy Saturday. Tomorrow, I hope for the guys that are in Uganda, you go to church. Yeah, I'm going to go to church with my boys. We go to church and then we praise the Lord that we have actually come to this day that His Son rose from the dead. Yeah. So today we're going to be talking about the cultural shift. You know, hi Martha. I hope you're doing well. Today we're going to be talking about the cultural shift, and basically culture is how we do things. Good evening, Emma. Thank you for reminding me. Bam Kakea, aka Vincent. Hi, I hope you guys are doing well. Culture is when we talk about culture, we basically mean how things are done in a certain segment of society. On the mobile network. I don't know why people keep calling. Bwokubira omuntu emirundi esatu nga takwata simu soko omulekemu manya ati sawa ena ali busy. That's one thing I think people have not yet understood. Okujjako nga it's really an emergency, and this person that is calling me, I don't think that under any emergency this person would be calling me. They basically have someone else to call. Hi Joseph, thank you for coming. I personally know which people would call me if they had an emergency. And this person is not the kind of person that would call me if he has an emergency. He would call other people. So I don't see how he's calling me more than 3 times. So I think that's probably one thing that we have to teach ourselves. Personally, if I call you 2 times and so can space, that's something I've come to teach myself. It's like sending someone an email. When you send someone an email and they don't reply, you normally give them a week before you send them another email, right? So I treat phone calls like that. So for phone calls, I don't give you a week, but I can give you a number of days. But all the people that are my emergency contacts, so I'm in the next like 10 minutes. I think that's how you know that you are important to some people and you're not important to other people. Because in the Siwala, I remember there is a friend of mine, he was in Dubai for 2 years, and yoli guy when abanyumiza in a business one on 50k a day. Nene baba bamusirwaza omanyi ikintu kyokulinya ennyonyi ekyo kisirwaza baba wamusirwaza namugamba jango gende ebweru biki nimutwala Dubai naberayo emyaka 2 nakomonga ekyebbeyi kyalina simu. So he went to Dubai 2 years, came back with one thing of value, a mobile phone, and of course shirts, very nice clothes, and at that time I had personally started getting loans from the bank. So he talks to me and he tells me, I want you to lend me some money and I start a business. I told him I'm going to borrow. That time I borrowed 1 million from Equity. He said, okay, and I showed him paperwork. I'm getting 1 million from the bank. I'm going to give you some money off of that, but this is my account number, so you need to pay this money. You need to put this money back on the account. Every month you put this amount. And he put one time and he never put back. But I still talk to him, and every time I tell him I paid that loan long time ago, and I kept getting other loans and I paid them. And from that time I realized that friends and family, it's better that you don't lend them money. If you can't lose that money, don't lend it to them. Never Janti lend me some money, you give it to him or her. You must know that you have given them, but don't tell them you have lent them, and if they pay, it's okay. If they don't, it's okay. So that's how I handle things. And I think most of at least if someone is my friend, they would know that I don't. If I'm to lend you money, you have to give me security, because if a bank can't lend you money without you giving them security, yet they know how to do finance. So in the Atambanda security. I also try as much, whenever I need money, I go to the bank. if I need to borrow money, I go to the bank. And of course, there are specific people that can lend me money, and I always put some profit. So, but me, I don't borrow money from friends and family because toyagala kuchawagana n'abantu. Good evening, Emmanuel Mukisa. Happy Easter to you too, Emma. I'm just like you. I don't lend without security. That's the only way we can be. And I also sign paperwork. They say, "Oh, I got to sign." That's the only way people pay. You want 10,000? Give me something that has a value of 50k. Give you the 10k. You will pay back without me having to chase you around. And I even put a clause of so that's how I do. Personally, I've never gotten any free things, so I don't think I should be giving people free things. They work for them. Even my siblings, my cousins, because they're in Uganda, my cousins don't get free money from me. They work because I work. Personally, I have not gotten free stuff. I work for everything I have, so they need to work. They say, I don't have Easter yet. I'm Esther. Yet am I a human being? Esther over Easter. What do you mean, Martha? What do you mean? So today we're going to be talking about the cultural shift. I was defining culture, and I was telling you that culture means the normal practice of things, the normal way of living in a society, in a community, in a family, in a generation, in a country, in a continent. Say what you would like, but culture is the normal way of doing things, the normal way of believing things, the normal way of perceiving things. You get, like the way we cook food here in the central in Uganda. That's Easter. You don't have Easter. Hi Nathan. You don't have Easter. But category jolly Easter it is not that special. Years ago Easter right now you'd be seeing things everywhere. Of course, for us in our village, people, the butchers have cut meat. They have cut full cows. Every butcher has cut a full cow. And they are going to sell all the meat. So finally, I gave away my dog. I'm not a dog person, sincerely. But in a way, there is a connection that comes when you live with someone or something for some time. So in a way, there was a connection that everyone had. Nobody liked the idea of having a dog, but everyone had a connection to this dog. Even Aban asked me, "Daddy, where is Rocky going?" And I told him I'm giving Rocky away. And yeah, but he just walked away, of course. He just had, like, there is a dog called Rocky. Yeah, so the guy that used to sell us the meat that we gave Rocky is the guy that took it. Yeah, it was taken. It has been taken today, by the way. So the butcher where I've been buying meat. Neither the butcher guy was saying, and then when I was giving him the dog, I gave him the shampoo, and then I gave him the immunization card. Yeah, but I tried. We all tried, by the way. And then I realized we are just a family of we are not an animal family, or we are not a family that will keep pets. I think our pets will be cars. And I just saw a car that will cost $1,000 from China, and I thought I should like buy that car for my sons when they get of age by practicing. You know those Chinese cars that are not long lasting, they are not even of good quality. Yeah, cars like that. Yeah, so but I hope you guys are doing well. The cultural shift. For you to be able to understand what culture means, you need to understand where you come from as a person, as an individual. I'm a Uganda. He's going to mistreat it. Whatever. But he seemed to be excited about the idea of me giving him the dog. So I give, that's the only thing that because me, I was never excited about dogs. I only got the dog because I wanted it to eat a thief. But apparently dogs don't eat thieves. The thieves can actually kill the dogs. So I'm going to find other security measures for my house. Probably a very loud alarm with sirens on all sides of the house, so that the thieves can actually get scared when they see them. Wait, and they I go to the other guy in there that creates no, something like that. So anyway, culture, for you to understand what culture is, you need to understand where you come from. For example, I'm a Musajja or Muganda. I'm a Muganda man. My kids don't speak good Luganda, but I teach them that they are Baganda men. They have cultural days at their school, and I think 3 weeks ago they were putting on councils, and they really liked it. So I try to teach them about their culture for them to understand what a man does, and what it means to be a Muganda man, and what it means to be a Muganda. For us to have a good future, we basically need to understand where we come from as human beings, because once you don't understand where you come from and what it means to be you from where you come from, you will not have identity, and it's very important. Thank you, James. Happy Easter to you too. It's important for us to have it's important for us. By the way, I'm thinking of not having the broadcast tomorrow because it's Easter, for us to celebrate Easter, so that we start. And by the way, if you have not seen the short video I put on the channel, next week is going to be all about men and cars. Martha, don't go away because I'm talking about men and cars. It's important for you to understand what your future husband needs to be like for him to enjoy. And I'm later going to explain why I'm going to do the week on men and cars. Later I'll explain. Let's first understand what culture means. In Uganda, we have a culture. In Africa, we have culture. There are things that we understand as culture, as the things that we know as normal, and that becomes culture with time. You get what I'm saying? For example, we know it's a culture in Uganda that a border guy is never wrong. It's culture. It's part of us right now. And the way a border guy can knock my car from behind, but the border guy will never be wrong. I will actually end up paying the border guy. It's culture. Now it's engraved in our DNA that when you're involved in an accident with a border guy, even when a police officer sees that the border guy has knocked you, you basically have to negotiate in the direction of you paying the border guy, paying the traffic officer, and then you drive your car away. If you can't, they will park both of you. The traffic officers already know that the person that's driving the car has a lot of things to do, more things than the border guy. And because the traffic officer knows that, he also knows that the car guy has more money, so he has to press the car guy to get money. You get what I'm saying? So it's a cultural thing. It's engraved in our DNA right now. It's also part of our... Sorry, network keeps disturbing me, but we are going to come back. So culture is like the normal way of doing things. Culture is the normal way of doing things in the environment, or in the area, or in the country or continent, or wherever you live at that specific time. And we have a culture in terms of everything. You get, for example, in the West, these guys take bongo. I've never understood what bongo is. I like muzigo, it smells really nice, but I've never understood the concept of bongo. You get, I've been in gym and there's a guy that came with bongo. Apparently he thinks that bongo will help him get muscles. Bongo doesn't have anything to do with that. You get, but for him, he believes that when I take bongo, my God, I will become muscular. Never works. Yeah, I've seen him work out for like 4 months. He hasn't changed a bit. Personally, I eat meat. For the guys that are doing gym and you're thinking, okay, I want to transform, eat meat. Martha, I'm always here waiting in my camoli to see which man touches in my... Anyway, so culture is, you need to understand how do you dress. The way you are used to dressing is your culture. There are chicks that are used to dress in very skimpy dresses. That's, for them, it's embedded in their DNA. Culturally, they believe that's okay. There are chicks that are used to dressing in long attires, and for them, that's part of them. That will become the culture. The music that we create in Africa differentiates us from the Europeans. I don't know if I make sense. So wherever you are, there is a culture that is engraved into everything. And in and every country there is music that is in South Africa. By now you go to amapiano or amapiano. The Nigerians have their own music. The Sudanese have their own music. Here in Uganda, let's just look at the cultures we have here. The Aruls, they have their own music. The Baganda have their own music. The Ankole, the Banyankole have their own music. The Basamia have their own music. The Badama have their own music. The Bagishu have their own music. You get the Manyoro, Batoro. Every tribe has its own music, and in a way, that makes them who they are. It differentiates them from the rest of us. You get. Yes, we live in the same country, the same region. We are one people, but every person has something that they hold dear. That's why every tribe has their own king. That's like the leader of that culture. And it's important. You see, the way we build our toilets here, we have VIP, ventilated, improved pit latrines. You'll find that in every home, however rich they are, we have that pit latrine. It's in our culture to have a pit latrine, even when it's unnecessary. But it's in our culture. We believe that that's like part of us. I don't have one, and I'm not going to make one. But one thing you need to understand. Is that culture is who we are. When you have kids and you start raising them in a certain way, that will be their culture. It will be part of them. It will define who they are. It will define how they do things. It will define how they speak with people. It will define how they do their jobs. You get. So you need to understand that the way you do things at home can become a culture. If you pray, if you teach your kids to say please. My kids know how to say please. They know how to say thank you. They know how to say good evening. They know how to say are you okay? They know how to say sorry. They know. You get what I'm saying. So this is something that you're developing as a culture in your children. But they learn more by seeing than by being told. So that's also one thing that we need to understand. VIP, ventilated, improved pit latrine. You get. So the culture, we talk about cars because this car is basically about, this channel is about cars, and it's important for us to understand that every country has something around cars. I'm sure you've seen guys that take their cars to the villages to be blessed by the ancestors. I've never been one of those. Of course, there's a time that I used to believe that having a rosary in my car would protect me from traffic officers, but I used to not have good tires. I used to not have a permit, so you definitely need the protection of the rosary. But you know, when you do everything the right way, then you don't need the protection of a higher spirit, because the higher spirit gave you leaders, and these leaders created laws, and these laws are there to be followed. You get. So if the law says for you to drive a car, you need to have tires that have tread, that are not expired. Buy tires that are not expired and put them there. If the law says that you need to buy third party, buy third party. If the law says that you need to have a driving permit, have a driving permit. If the law says that your windscreen should not be cracked, make sure your windscreen is new and not cracked. You get. If the law says that your car should look good, make sure your car looks good. If the law says drive properly, then you should drive properly. Now, if we get ourselves used to understanding what the law says and making sure that, because the leaders come from God, and if God gives you a leader and the leader says do this, you're supposed to do it. Even Jesus said, you get I have no idea what that is. You get. So you need to understand that the things we do become a culture, and because we have developed a culture of giving bribes everywhere. So people have it okay to drive cars that have poor, bad tires, windscreen that are cracked, no driving permit, no third party. The cars are in very bad conditions because they know every time I get stopped, I'll give a traffic officer 5k. That's like a culture of bribes. You get? So I'm talking about culture so that you understand what culture is. You get? So today we are talking about the cultural shift in buying cars and how people older than us used to buy and how people used to buy cars like 10 to 20 years ago and how we buy cars today. If you are here, if you're in your 30s, I totally know. I'm suggesting you put dates wherever you're broadcasting for easy reference. Actually, they are dates. Every broadcast has a date. Every broadcast has a date. And that's something I may not be able to do. This is something that comes from YouTube, but every broadcast has a date. Yeah, but I'm going to look into it and see if I can find a way of changing it to October. Thank you. So, cultural shift. In 2010, when I bought my first car, of course I was really young and stupid. When I bought my first car in 2010, it was a Chivina UAB 155G. It was manual. I bought it from my auntie. And at that time, I had driven my friend's taxi for like 4 times. It was so whenever my friend came from his rounds at night at around 10, 11, then I'll tell him, Omanyi Frank can take him after time for game. Then what would happen is I would put 5k. In 2010 fuel was cheap. I think a liter of fuel was 2,000 or 2,200. 2010. So I would put 5k and I drive around. So I believed I had land. And that's when I started driving cars. That's why I can make reference 10 years ago how people bought cars and how we buy cars these days. For us to understand why I know there is a cultural shift, we need to understand that culture generally, our culture has shifted as well. How we do things, how we marry, how we talk to people. Basically everything has changed. Our culture is not what it used to be a long time ago. 10 years ago, you could not talk about the kabaka. These days, you find kids on TikTok abusing the kabaka, and nobody can touch them. We have a cultural shift. You get? There is a cultural shift. 10 years ago, nobody would abuse the president. Today, someone will abuse the president, and the president is not allowed to do anything wrong, anything to them, because that's what the law says. Freedom of speech. People can speak however they want. You get, as long as they have not harmed you. You see, that's why Muhammad Nsedek was trying to bring the Computer Misuse Act, that if you talk something about him when you cannot, before asking him for permission, then they can arrest you. You get, because people are saying the truth and the truth hurts. There is a cultural shift that in the past people used to have shame. Today people no longer have shame. I remember when I had my first car and went to the garage, I found a man. At that time I was in my early 20s. I think I bought my first car when I was 20. 2010 I was 20. And I went to this garage and I was looking at these men. I think then they were in their late 30s, over early 30s, over mid 30s, I don't know. So they were basically older than me. Where I was raised to respect my elders. That's the culture. I find a person that is older than me or looks older than me, I would say, yes, I was raised to be very respectful. And I would go to this garage and I would keep respecting these men. But you know, these men would say words. They would abuse each other words. They would joke about things that are not supposed to be joked about. And I would think to myself, what's wrong with these men? You get it? And I would think, someone would abuse another, and then these men would abuse the young boys that came to the garage to learn things, words, very, very big words. And I would ask myself, these men, they don't respect their age. So I would ask myself, how can I respect this man if he himself does not respect himself? And then I realized there's a cultural shift. As you grow, probably you start to understand that culture is not really what we thought, because how
How many of you know that your mothers or fathers used to go to, okay, now you know, but as you were growing up, did you even know that your parents went to the toilet? They would be kwebuzabuzaring, eh? Nayebuzabuza narunda ku buddo nolowooza munnaye agenze mu nnimiro oba kunogayo something. Kumbe the guy has gone to the toilet. You get? So there is a cultural shift. Nowadays, you find a mother seated with their kid and they say, hey, I need to go to the toilet. Like there are things I grew up not seeing. So there is a cultural shift in everything. And that does not spare the way we buy cars. You get? But the way we buy cars these days can be a self-destructing habit. The way we do things can destroy us as young people. And that's probably something that we don't want. You get? I'm not reading Emma and Martha's engagements here. Let them engage. So I hope you guys are getting where I'm coming from. So there's been a cultural shift in the buying process, or what people buy and why they buy it. There's been a cultural shift in everything. We also need to understand the people 10 years ago, the people that were in their 30s 10 years ago. What did they believe in? What did they do? What was their thought process like? What were the things that they thought to be normal and the things that they did not think to be normal? We need to understand these things. For starters, the people 10 years ago, the men that were started 10 years ago, right now they are 40. Happy Easter's champion Morgan. The men that were 30 10 years ago are now 40. Okay? One thing we need to understand, that some of those men 10 years ago, they were not as educated as you guys. They were not as exposed as you guys. You get? So that's a difference in our generation and their generation. That's something we need to understand. They are different from us. They were different from us. The number of kids they had is totally different from the number of kids we have or are going to have. For example, a chick Martha's age, I'm imagining Martha being mid-20s, late 20s or early 30s. Okay? That's what I'm imagining. I don't know if it's true or but she's in her teens. Good evening, Paul. Thank you. Happy Easter to you too. So, a lady of Martha's age would be having 5 or 6 kids by now, right? So there's been a cultural shift that Martha doesn't have a child. And she doesn't want to have a child until she's sure she can take care of that child. That's a cultural shift. Hi Salmi. That's a cultural shift. So since there is a cultural shift in how ladies are having kids, in how we men, how we are marrying and why we are marrying, that means there's going to be a cultural shift in how we buy cars. There's going to be a cultural shift in how we buy houses or how we build houses. There's a shift in what we take to be important. Men that were in their 30s 10 years ago, men that were thank you very much, Joseph. But take your likes. You guys put likes. But I'm taking likes, more likes. I'm coming, Paul. Nzija. I just wanted us to first of all understand how the cultural, how all our beliefs have been. Thank you, Alan, and thank you guys for subscribing. Manangi, I'm at 3,000 subscribers. I'm also on TikTok now. At TikTok, nteka karibaya TikTok. Banange TikTok has followers that grow. I think now I'm 1,000 subscribers. I'm at 1,000. When I sent a day to look at TikTok, I had 970 subscribers. They grow like 20 subscribers every 30 minutes. My God, TikTok grows. And if there's someone here from TikTok, you're welcome. This is for the love of cars on YouTube. This is where the magic happens. Most of the things. Yeah, I joined TikTok and somehow TikTok grows a lot. And at TikTok, you don't have to put things that make sense. Just say things that people would enjoy listening to. Toyota Nadia ojogerako kitono oba ki? Toyota Nadia, I wouldn't encourage someone to buy Toyota Nadia right now. Like we are talking about the cultural shift. I wouldn't recommend someone to buy Toyota Nadia now. No, because there are better cars to buy. Actually, instead of buying a Nadia, I would buy a Visitor. Same comfort, better fuel consumption. More likes, guys. We are 15 people. We are only 8 likes. More likes. Good evening, Central Forex. Yeah, I tell them, like next week we are doing men and cars strictly Monday to Friday. Of course, we have the Friday, which is Market Friday, and then which is Question Friday, and then Tuesday, which is Market Tuesday. But still, the theme will be men and cars. Yeah, still for the love of cars, as here for the love of cars. So you guys, the cultural shift. You see how men used to dress 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I think abasajja, they used to put on trousers. You remember when we were in secondary school, for the guys that were in secondary school in my time, 2000 from 2003 to 2009. For the guys that were in high school then, remember when you used to iron shirts and you even put a spider web in the back? Do you think the kids these days still do that thing? No, they don't. You remember when you used to take appetizer, chipoli? Do kids still do those things? You get it? So there is a cultural shift in everything. I think every 10 years things totally change. You can imagine 10 years ago there was no way someone and their mother-in-law would go to the same toilet. But today people are renting apartments where there is only one toilet. It's in the house and everyone has to go to that toilet. So the cultural shift has also taken away the buko. You get abantu bachafuna buko. Like you go to the toilet and your mother-in-law goes to the same toilet. Your father-in-law goes to the same toilet. Because it's only one, what are you going to do? That's why in my house I put 3 of my mother-in-law will go to a different toilet and go to a different one. Besides my toilet, nobody else goes there apart from my wife. You get it? So there's a cultural shift with everything that we do. So how does the cultural shift affect how we buy? How many kids are you going to have? That's one thing I'm going to ask you. And in what area are you renting your house if you're renting? And in what area have you built your house if you have built? How do you dress? Do you dress the same way your father dressed when he was 30? Do you make the same money your father made when he was 30? Can you do the same job your father did when he was 30? So you see, there is a shift in everything. Can you do the same businesses that your mother did when she was 30? Now I'm talking, put your age in perspective. If you're 25, say 25. If you're 20, say 20. If you're 40, say 40. You get? So you see that there's a cultural shift with everything that we do. And because there is that shift in that area, there is definitely going to be a shift. Cause of intermarriage mainly in central Uganda. I think so, but also because of the resources. Right now, it's very hard to find a home that has in where apartments are. It's very hard for you to find a home that has those VIPs. We all have toilets. We don't have pit latrines. You get? So there is that shift in whatever we do. And nowadays guys are into dancing like girls. So absurd. I know. It's annoying. You go to TikTok and man, me, I've frozen most of the TikTok videos that don't develop me. So I have motivational videos, I have medical, I have lessons, financial lessons and all. So I don't have most of that entertainment stuff apart from the comedies that help me, because I personally produce now. I can officially say that I produce TV content, but I'm going to be one of the first guys to do sitcoms. So because I produce comedy, I watch a lot of comedies. So I have comedies, educative content, motivational content, and medical content on my TikTok timeline at all times, because I want to be watching videos that add something to me. I'm not going to be watching videos of men dancing like chicks. I didn't see my parents at my age. I'm the last born. You didn't see your parents at your age. You're the last born. Okay, now I want you to just imagine, do you think your parents did the things you're doing at your age? At your age, how many kids did your mom have? Because that will tell you how things have changed in our lives. Because of Jakwe Sangamatha, if you're the last born, you will find that your mom had more kids than you will have at 50. Martha, tomorrow never comes, so that's why it must. So when I was in 2010, when I had just bought my car, I would sit on my knee. I like to sit with people that are either older than me, doing better than me, more knowledgeable than me. And when I sit with them, then I can learn from them. I ask questions. How did you do this? How do you do this? How would you advise I do this? And then they tell me, they advise me. So I would sit with these men and I would observe, even women, by the way. 10 years ago, the only women that had cars were either women whose husbands bought cars for them, or women that had no husbands. You get? After how much is Nissan X-Trail in good condition? And please tell us about this vehicle. Don't buy the Nissan X-Trail, my brother. I'm not even going to tell you those things, because you will say otherwise. Don't buy the Nissan X-Trail. Buy the Kluger instead, because those are literally the same car. Buy the Kluger, because the Kluger is the cheaper version of the Kawondo. If the X-Trail is being sold to you at 10, the Kluger will be at like 16, 17, 18. Make more money. Don't buy cars that are going to make you broke. The Nissan X-Trail will make you broke. Maintenance is too expensive. Too expensive. That's why it's cheap in the market. It's cheap. That's what I can tell you, adventure. But I can also tell you, leave the X-Trail alone, adventure. Buy other cars. If you want SUVs, buy RAV4, buy a Kruger, buy Kawundo or the Harrier old model. Buy the Toyota models that are SUV. Vanguard. Leave the X-Trail alone. I know it's tempting because it's cheap, so you think let me buy the cheap car, let me buy the cheap SUV and I enjoy. My brother, you'll go to the village. X-Trail, can't pause if you have money, but if you have money, go to the bone and buy the X-Trail new. But if you buy a used X-Trail, everybody that is selling the X-Trail right now, they said it because it's giving them headaches. It's very hard to find someone selling an X-Trail, and the reason they are selling the X-Trail is because they are enjoying driving it so much, so someone else should enjoy it. Like me, the way I'm enjoying my Corolla, there are chances I could sell it because I'm enjoying it. Let Emma also enjoy it. You get? So X-Trail mujireke, leave it, adventure. So let's go back to Chill the X-Trail, problematic in a long run with a bad resale value. Thank you, Alan. On TikTok, I told people about not to buy the Mazda, and some dudes were saying Mazda is reliable. Then a chick came out, na chick ba wonze Mazda yambo nya mama lulirumbe. And then I posted a reply to her, and then she said, you know what, Mazda yandemano kutunda ngatenze bajinsera nganjigula. So when we say things, they said your guy you buy your X-Trail. I have no problem with you. Me, there is a friend of mine, he was going to buy an X-Trail in lockdown. I told him, don't buy the X-Trail. He said, but X-Trails are cheap. I bought mine 8. Right now he's a mechanic. yayigo kukanika ne shoka zeteeramu because wagata sente ez'okugula shoka osasula ne makanika olumu makanika mubbi yayigo kukanika. Hey, you buy the X-Trail, you will learn how to speak scars. Even Mercedes-Benz, there is a guy I know, he had a Mercedes-Benz, but mechanic never moved, but now I'm going to learn. So he started fixing the car on YouTube, following YouTube tutorials. Soon, he failed. Now he uses border. At he got X-Trail and watch, man, very soon you may join your counterparts that you left on borders. You will find them there. If you're rich, you buy your X-Trail. Me, I have no problem adventure. Hi Gaetano. But other than that, leave the X-Trail alone. So let me start moving. I think we have done 41 minutes. 1 hour tomorrow is Easter. Then we have Easter Monday. Of course, Monday I have meetings, but so the cultural shift, guys. You see, 10 years ago, I've told you, 10 years ago, women that had cars were either they were bought by their husbands, or these women were but nature young back in the day and had a lot of money. Which again, now he uses he still has his car, but he's a mechanic. He's ajekaniki atoru majira ku boda. Anti nga kiremedde wakechi moto kajja nakuba ne kigala nalinya boda ye nze corona yange njivuga wina kwesobola okubagana kati kubagana bubule ekyawo bangambye ngule kalipa za 10 ningazi binne mesotambula no kabukubagane. I drive my Corolla wakitegeera shoko zema bega nfu mukyala wange ontubye mukinya hani ega tofa ishoko tujjagula katsoke tukole ku sente naye nga yekola ki etambula. Cultural shift, guys. Thank you for joining us, guys. That for those that have just joined us, we have 12 likes. We are 18 people. Like. So we are talking about the cultural shift. For those that have just joined, when we talk about culture, we are talking about the normal way of doing things. Okay? And 10 years ago, there was a normal way of buying cars. There was a normal reason for buying cars. Let me tell you. Hi, Charles. I hope you're doing well. So 10 years ago, men bought older cars. It was very hard to find a man buying a new car. It was very hard 10 years ago. Someone would be having 100 million on their account and they buy a Chivina that is old. 10 years ago. Okay? 10 years ago, all cars did not have SC. Apart from the cars of government employees, those ministers and all. 10 years ago, I think people did not even know how to use SC. Okay? 10 years ago, a car was simply a means of transport. You get? 10 years ago, people did not even pay attention to which type of car it was. You see the way we pay attention to manyati kati netugamba the way we can say that so and so is driving a Ractis. 10 years ago, a car was a car. There was the only thing a car did was to transport people from work to home. Actually, 10 years ago, people rarely even drove the cars to work. It was only the very rich people that drove cars to town. 10 years ago. 10 years ago, a young man, I remember when I had just bought my car, the lady that used to order us things when I was in primary and secondary, when my grandmother was still paying my school fees. Bali bamwita Mama Ali. Mama Ali yangamba ne mwana wangu guze motoka tekwa avuwaze. The same thing happened to a certain lady called Aunt Betty Kucharo. Aunt Betty said, Arthur, katsende zonna zonna ozimalira mu motoka. That's 10 years ago. You get? By the way, why do they make noise in the brake area? I did change new caliper, but nothing. Are you sure? Then I think, did you put the things that hold the bobati that hold the brakes in place? Because when you change the caliper, you're supposed to put a bobati there. Yes. So sometimes the calipers have lost their grip, and when the calipers lose their grip, even the bobati don't help. Because me, I had the bobati and they were not helping. So now that's why I'm going to buy the calipers. Sedans were called my car. Exactly. 10 years ago, sedans were called my car. You get? 10 years ago, so many things were different from what they are right now. Guys, like. Liking video, it's giving you something. Like, we have 13 likes, we are 18, 5 more people to like. So 10 years ago, things were too different. You get 10 years ago, people were starting to buy woofers. 10 years ago, I didn't have a woofer because I don't think I've been the kind of person that that was interested in trends. Because 10 years ago, I didn't even have a TV. I had a computer, I had a laptop, because I had a video library. But I did not have a woofer. 10 years ago, people were starting to buy flat screen TVs. So I want you to understand the cultural shift right now. Which again, 10 years ago, solar wasn't popular. 10 years ago, men bought old cars. 10 years ago, it was very rare to find a person going to the bond. 10 years ago, the only person that went to the bond was a person of high net worth. Nga centers, idinangira bogule moroka empie ya bond. Obo ina million ndara nkankaga kwa account. That was 10 years ago. Muchitegera. Those who were inclusive. Na ye mama nkoye, I guess that's where the noise comes from. Banange buleti zikubagana zikumala nze actually, I think, let me think of it. I'm going to remove the tires myself. You bought the calipers and the brakes. I'm going to wait to buy the calipers. Thank you for telling me that, Adams. I'm going to first find another solution. I'm going to find myself without the mechanic. People have a misconception about AC increasing fuel consumption, which is true to a degree, but not as. By the way, Alan, my car, I use AC. Even as I drive from here, I'm going to be using AC. But my car still does 12 to 15 to 16 actually kilometers per liter. Which Arthur, Primo new model or Alteza 2000cc VVTi, which one is value for money? Depends what money you're talking about. Obviously, the Primo is more expensive than Alteza. Which you cannot get a Primo new model at 13 in good condition. You can get an Alteza at 13 in good condition. So both cars have value for money. Of course, resale value, the Primo will have higher resale value, but it will also be expensive. The Alteza, you buy it cheaply, you still have something that is cheap for people to buy. So more people will be lining up to buy. So I hope you get the so both cars have resale value. But make sure you buy the Alteza beams. Yeah. So you guys, I hope you see the cultural shift. That today you find people, the way we buy cars these days, we buy with a passion. 10 years ago, men did not buy cars with a passion. Women did not buy cars with a passion. 10 years ago, you'd find a man that has 200 million on the account and he still takes a taxi. You'll find someone with 10 million in the bag taking a taxi. Today, someone makes 10 million, they want to go to the bond and borrow a car. So there is a cultural shift in regards to how we buy our cars. 10 years ago, it was very hard to find someone buying a personal car before building a home and some mizigo. Today, you find someone, they cannot even afford their rent, but they are buying a new car from the bond. You get? So there is that cultural shift. How cars were bought then and how cars are being bought now. Calipers have a retractable pin. If not lubricated, the brakes don't disengage fully. Hence, some of those unusual sounds. That might be something Alan also. Alan, ekola garage tujje tukuwagire. Ebintu byonna bino bimanyi. Simanyi oba practically era obigira. Naye kulabanga obwongo bukwesera. Ate obyogera na mu luzungu. Ate abantu aboogera ebintu mu luzungu baba bamanyi ebintu. Okitegeera baba bamanyi kati nze engeri gyenjogera oluzungu lwa marketing. Ngitegeera. Omuntu bw'omusanga amanyi ekintu mu luzungu ne mu Luganda. Ababimanyi. Most of our mechanics just know them in Uganda. Ask the retractable pin. Hey, babuyita musumaali. Musumaali ogwo. So thank you, Alan. Tell us other reasons why. We have 22 people, 18 likes. There's 4 more people to like this broadcast. Thank you very much for the likes. So the cultural shift. And why am I doing this broadcast? And why am I telling you this? Is because it's important for us to understand what kept the people that came before us with money. And why is our generation going broke fast. Wakitegeera nti omuntu someone can make money enough to build a home, but they instead decide to buy a brand new car. And I'm saying brand new meaning bond, because for us that's brand new in Uganda, whether you like it or not. Ngatujemu amalala. A bond car for us in Uganda is brand new. Okitegera. Nti we see a lot of people that we thought would have money. You guys saw Bush, DJ Bush baby. Okitegera. I'm seeing a guy that is drunkard here. Mwenge gumu kubye. Ulide. Gumu kubye. Mumulide. Gumu kubye, he's instructing other people to stop. Let me turn. Oh no. That guy that is walking. Oh wenge omulaba. Gumu kubye. Yeah. I like the video, but then later it did. Oh, thank you. And it could be. Do you have any past experience? Martha, Martha ne Emma sijabyogerako. Drunkards, auntie, they are drinking. So anyway, the reason why we have to do this broadcast is for us to understand how this shift in our culture, in our buying culture, is affecting us as young people. The culture where someone says, sometimes I think sometimes there is a kind of awareness that someone might have that another might not have. You get, and it's important for us to understand and have that angle as well. So I find that the men that came before us 10 years ago, they had bali mamanye naku yawe. They knew enaku. How would you say enaku? In the context that I'm saying it in English. Bali mamanye naku yawe. They knew that, okay, I have children to look after. I have children that... Sorry guys, I don't know why someone can keep calling you. You show them you're busy, and they keep showing you. Indeed, rest in peace for those guys in the Alpha. So you guys, I don't know if you understand what I mean when I'm talking about the cultural shift. 10 years ago is not so far away, but indeed it's also far when you think about it. Kamuziki mukawulira mwenda moro kempya. Yeah, anyway, I suffered when I bought my car. The mechanic people know those terms in Uganda. Now translating them in English is not easy. Yeah. So, Arthur gave you my sister's videos. I personally think that the Alphard accident was caused by inexperience. The driver was inexperienced. You know, that's what I think, something that I was telling someone yesterday when they were saying that the ABS is very important. The cars that have the most accidents are those that have ABS. They are the cars that cause the most accidents, probably because they are driven by inexperienced people. I've had plenty of accidents, but I've never had an accident where anyone was injured. You get? Hey, Alan is a mechanic. Mechanical engineer. Mechanic. He's a mechanic. He's going to start a garage soon. For the love of cars, efunye makanika wayo owa munda. Yeah. 9 lives are too much, but it was I totally understand it was recklessness. There's nothing else to say about that. People like to overtake when they have cars. It was a UBL, so I'm assuming this person daje ulira amanyi. Mukitegera nga awulira asobola oyisa buli kimu n'atuuka eri nga tebannamukwata, and that's how they had the head on. And you know, overtaking can be very, very dangerous. Me, I don't just overtake. Abasajja babirola asobola n'okutomera nga akulaba. You see, for them they survived. The guys in the truck, they survived. The guys in the Alpha died. You get? For them, the lorries are too strong. let's go back to our conversation of the cultural shift. So the guys 10 years ago had their priorities. When I say they had their priorities straight, I don't mean that anybody else that is not having the priorities like those of the guys that came before us doesn't have their priorities straight. But I personally see that now for someone that has been working for more than 10 years, it is really shaming that you work for more than 10 years and you still don't have a home. We are Africans. That's part of our culture. And this is something that I don't want anyone for the love of cars to take away. This is a part of our culture that should stay. The part of our culture that values. The part of our culture that values having a home where you go to that belongs to you. A home that your kids can call home. And so that you don't have to move your kids from district, division to division, because your landlord treated you badly, or because there is a noisy neighbor, or because there's a nosy person in the Chikomera. You get? Because when you have your own home, there is something. Yes, you can buy a car, but a home is very important. And the men and women 10 years ago understood this. I remember there is an auntie of ours, she has some good money. She could have bought a car before she built a house. She did not do that. She built a house, finished it, fenced it, and then she bought a car. Which together. So those were the priorities that people 10 years ago had. Today, we think we have our priorities straight, but we don't. I'll give you an example. You find someone lives in Bukoto, works in Ntinda, and they buy a car. That distance from Bukoto to Ntinda, even in an Uber, it will cost you like 6K. Cheaper than owning a car. I don't know if I make sense. Cheaper. And they invest in that car and keep maintaining it with money. Every day, that person drives 5 kilometers to work, 5 kilometers back home. You get? A car is meant to be a mode of transport, but is it necessary? You get? So our culture today, unlike the culture of the people 10 years ago, is a culture of trying to live in a lifestyle. Our culture is lifestyle driven. It's not reason driven. 10 years ago, the men and women that came before us, our mothers and fathers, because those were the guys that were in their 30s and 40s 10 years ago, and aunties, and let's say and grandfathers, 10 years ago and before, those guys were reason driven. Which again, they wanted to do things that have longevity before the things that are temporary, because the car is very temporary. You see, I'm driving here and I'm driving very slow. That coaster there can lose braking power. And the people 10 years ago understood this. But it's very hard for someone, especially, of course, now the world is Uganda is getting spoiled, especially with people in the army that think they are untouchable, until probably we get a vigilante system where people take their responsibility to actually deal with the guys that have bad manners. You see vigilantes, like in the mask, someone deals with people that are doing bad, steal from the rich that have stolen money and give back to the poor. Like right now, if you had a vigilante, the vigilante will go around to the minister that stole iron sheets. Give their wealth to the people of Karamoja. That's a Raktis, guys. I think that's a 2009 model. That's a Raktis 2009 model. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. The culture of buying 10 years ago and before is totally different from the culture of buying these days. So we are lifestyle driven. We buy what is trendy. We buy what makes us happy. We don't buy what is right. We buy what our peers will find stylish about us. We find we want people batulabe ngaba inamu kutoke nebo batolina. That's why you find someone having 35 million on their account and they use 32 to buy a car, and after buying the car at 32 they have to insert a 2 million to make it better. So mutu yabade na 35 million nama izanga ina 1 million katasola na kujuza tanka ye mafuta. You remember how I told you about a friend of mine who has a car straight from the bond, but when he's going to the village he's taking a bus, not because his car is faulty, No, because he can't afford the fuel to take him to the village. I don't know. I guess you see the kind, our culture and where it's taking us. In the past, all the men that had cars, they could drive the cars everywhere, apart from going outside the country. But anywhere, everywhere in the country, they would drive their cars. So that's a cultural shift that has happened. And I think the culture has shifted in the wrong direction, personally. Emma, you know what to say. Emma, you know what to say. So you guys, I don't know if I'm looking at the cultural shift in the right way. I don't know if I'm looking at the cultural shift in the right way. Namwe mula bachendaba obanchira banze ka. Of course, there are things that in terms of culture, there are things that have changed, but for the better. Like for example, 10 years ago, people still had kids they could not afford. And it's the reason why today there are so many kids that are going abroad to do Owakadama, because their parents could not afford them. So the parents, I'll give you an example. The maid in my home right now, she's making like 100K. But as the month ends, the mother is calling, seriously calling, so that this girl sends her the money. And in the beginning, me, I thought this girl is collecting money. She wants to be a nurse. But it's clear her parents cannot afford to take her to nursing school. So she has to pay for herself. But even the little 10 years ago, that dimension of culture in terms of having kids was not very good. So you see that we are shifting. For our generation today, we want to have children that we can actually afford. You get? And especially men, because the chicks, they can get influenced very easily by their friends, by their family, by even the man's family. Because I gave you an example of how some of my family members were approaching my wife, threatening her that if she doesn't have a girl for them, threatening her that if she doesn't have a girl for them, there will be no kwanjura. You get? So if a woman gets influenced by my family, kwanjura. You get? So if a woman gets influenced by my family or threatened, and she starts getting pregnant with kids that we cannot afford, then that's a bad thing. And that happened a lot 10 years ago. That's why you find that people 10 years ago, people that had kids 10 years ago have a lot of kids that they cannot afford. But our generation is shifting. Of course, there are some people that still have that mentality of that was there 10 years ago. I see it. Me, no more negotiations about buying a car or constructing a house, buying land. I can't anticipate the future. The reality that it's very easy to own a car than a home. Thank you very much. I mean, you can wake up with 10 million, go to the bond and they give you a car on credit. You get? But no one will give you a house on credit. Even if you bought land on credit, they will not allow you to use the land before you finish all the money. Because land is more valuable than a car. And that's a part of our culture that I never want any of you to eliminate. You need to understand that in our culture, people value land more than anything else. So if you're ever going to invest your hard-earned money in anything, first, it should be like, and this is something that I never understood, because nobody told me these things. Nobody told me these things. Me, the only time I actually knew that this was important was through friends and my mentor, the mentor that I forcefully put myself on. So it's very important for us to understand what parts of the culture to adopt from 10 years ago and what parts of the culture 10 years ago to drop. The parts of the culture that we need to understand are those parts of culture that are good. The parts of culture that are bad, like the part of culture that tells you that you should marry your brother's wife when your brother dies, even when your brother's wife doesn't want you. That's not a very good part of the culture. Me, I don't agree with it. However, there are people that still believe in that. You saw some journalists, God rest his soul, Quraish, he died, and they had built a house with his fiance or girlfriend. And when he died, the family was telling this girl that you either marry his brother or you get out of the house. That's very barbaric. We all know, for all you men out there, we all know it's, if you have a serious woman, it's very hard for you to build a house without her input. That's her input, and majority of the time you guys don't pay them. But would you want for your family to pay her that in case you died, God forbid? Hell no. That would not be a payment that is good. You get? So there are parts of our culture that we need to eliminate, but there are also parts of our culture that are very good. You get? So the shift in how people bought cars years ago, I think is taking the wrong direction. You find someone renting of music of 300,000 but driving a car of 40 million. It has never made sense to me. Not 300. Did I say 300 million? Of 30 million? I said 30. I should have said 30 million. You find someone renting a house of 300,000 but driving a car of 40 million, 50 million. Does that make sense to you? That's a part of culture that we need to rethink. Techikuyamba kuvuga moroka milioni 5. Probably ojifunya na mubanja ngosura mu nyumba ya mitwalo 25. Wosuide mu nyumba ye mitwalo 25 kitegeeza wepima mu nga with your money you can only pay for a house at 250. If you can only pay for a house of 250, my brother, you're still badly off. You get me? When I stopped renting in 2016, before I was renting, like the house I was in, I started renting it in 2012, and I was paying 250. I started by paying 150. The landlord shifted to 200, and then 250. Then I calculated I was giving this guy 3 million every year. And then this friend of mine that I've told you about took me to his house, and he said, "Nathan kokuzimane million." And I said, "Hey, so I'm giving this landlord all this money, 3 million. So if I can start building with 1 million, it means that 3 million I can enter my house." I bought land and I started building. And I can tell you that with 4 million I entered my house in Kasangati. I have pictures. One time I'll share a picture of that car house. You get it? So there is some bits of the culture that we need to copy from those that came before us, because they are very important. Unless you need a car to help you transact business, I don't think there is a reason why a person that is renting a house of 200,000 is driving a car of 25 million. But that's in my perspective. It doesn't have to be your perspective or any other person's perspective. In my perspective, I try to be positive in every aspect. I'm against it, by the way. Knowledge and wisdom are things that we get. Nobody is born with wisdom or knowledge. Everybody that has wisdom now got it from somewhere. Everybody that has knowledge now got it from somewhere. We have brains, but we may not necessarily have wisdom or knowledge. So this is something that I've purposefully been trying to be positive about. So you need to understand that there are aspects of the buying culture 10 years ago that we need to adopt. 10 years ago, families had that kind of togetherness, which no longer exists. Probably because we no longer trust each other. But before you say, I don't trust so and so, then you need to, am I trustworthy? Because you may be saying, I don't trust that person, and even that person is saying they don't trust you. You get? Sorry, network again. You may also be the kind of person that is not trustworthy. 10 years ago, men had friends where they had bonds. A friend became a brother. These days, how many people can say that that guy is close to being my brother? That I can leave that guy seated in the sitting with my wife and he would not touch her. You get? We are not loyal. And that's something that needs to improve. Starting from you guys that are watching this broadcast on For the Love of Cars. I don't know if I make sense. I remember about 15 years ago, I used to go to one of my auntie's houses, and her husband had this friend of his. They were really close. And when this guy died, his friend kept in touch with the family. He was helping out with the kids. But mark you, from my knowledge, and I can't say that it's what I'm saying has been proven, from my knowledge, he did not touch the guy's wife even after the guy passed. You get? So I'm guessing you see the kind of cultural shift that has come about. These days, Emma dies today, Alan starts vibing the wife the day Emma is married. Probably even when Emma is still in the sitting room, Alan starts vibing. That's a cultural shift that is terrible. Very terrible. And I believe we should change it. We need to develop a spirit of that guy is my friend and have boundaries. There used to be something called the bro code. I don't know if women have the same thing. You get? And that used to be the cultural. 10 years ago, I don't know if I was young. Or why that's the thing that I was raised at. The chance was there. Today, something, and which is why when somebody, you get, when someone says something like that, it means they are only network keeps going off. I want to read these comments. Emma muri mu future. Munange bali mu future. Emma is saying that his home has at least 3 newborn cars, so it's always easy to buy a car than building. That's why I urge anyone to build fast, because even with 10 million you own a car. Thank you. Even with 5, me, I'm driving 5 million. Even getting married at the age you don't want because your parents got married at that age. Exactly. And this depends on how kids were raised. If you're the kind of person that was raised, you'll get married at 20, even to a person that is wrong, because you have not even gotten the 2021, 22 with my high school sweetheart. But I can tell you now that I know the kind of person she is. The man that will marry her, Uganda wange wesibebiri. You get? But I was deeply in love. I would have married her then. But knowing that she's not a bad person, but she got together with some wrong groups and they shaped her in a certain way that I will, if my brother wanted to marry her, I would tell her don't. I'll tell him don't. You get? Did you know that only 1% of the Ugandans have more than 1 million in their bank accounts? There is now a debate going on where BO is questioning where are Ugandans' savings keeping. Exactly. Thank you, Adams. You see that someone gets like a 20 ma and they buy a car of 19. You get, and people are saying I advocate for old cars. But the reason why I advocate for old cars is because an old car helps you keep some money with you. As long as you pick a good old car. Which sometimes someone has like a 10 man, and Arthur tries to tell him nairo achitoguzene motoka nunje eringa eri ate bwogula eno osigazamu kasente nengo omuntu azizo mutoga nonze njagala eno okitegeera nga yayagala akasente kakamalirewo mu motoka okitegeera. And it's very true, Adams. That's why when people get sick then they start borrowing money, and that's a position that you don't want to get to okitegeera. But why would BOU question where we keep our money? After all, it's our hard-earned money. No, Central Forex, BOU is responsible to make sure that there is circulation in the money. I think it also has a responsibility to make sure that the economy is okay. And when there is no money in the economy, probably they interpret it in a certain way. That's probably something, that's a way you don't want to interpret. That's something I would not know. No more morals and discipline that we grew up with. You send a kid to go to get something, and they ask you, why are you sending me? And you can't beat him because of his parents. Exactly. But these days, we are even scared of bringing other kids into our homes to play with our kids, because we know they are going to spoil them. They are going to teach them bad manners, bad words. You get it? So there's a cultural shift, and it's not going in the right direction. The sooner we know, the better. After your network, man, and I'm using both MTN and Airtel. I'm using both because the MiFi is here, it's on. Even the Airtel network is on, but both of them are work. Yes, good evening, Matthias. With our parents demanding us kids, when for you want to plan for your future. Plan for your future. Don't listen to your parents. Good evening, Patrick. Don't listen to your parents. My auntie was telling my cousin, and I was asking her, you get it? And me, I'm always open. Me, I tell them, but I tell them, why are you asking a kid that cannot even look after himself to have another kid? No matter what you say, our parents used to say, now kuroli chidaba, now kuroli chidaba, now kuroli chidaba. Badinga abakolimo kwigamba barabo kubonabona ko kuruddewo. Me, I'm here, but my mom wants me home, but I should go back and get married. Na yenze, I don't want to get married now. I'm still young. You guys, I think there is a shift in our culture that we need to embrace. The shift of individuality. Have you realized that when you're suffering and you don't have money, you're suffering alone? Have you realized? Me, I remember when I was at campus, because I was paying my tuition, but there were times I was broke. And because I could get money, but my money would not come like immediately, like I want it now and now. Someone was keeping my money for me abroad. Katingabo, where is the email? It takes some time for him to answer. But this one time I asked my grandmother for 20,000. So we're going to campus. Because I didn't have baba. Then so again I'm makerere taxi. Na isi bisobole ebintu ya taxi kuvadda. Sikwesoma naye embeera embi eyo. Nagiva mudda yokulinya taxi ne boda. And by the way, that has helped me to not have border accidents. I judge her to give me like a 20k, and she tells me she doesn't have. And I borrow from somewhere, so I go to campus. When I come back, my judge had brought bricks. Yeah, you was a broken kumi bidi. And I'm not saying it's wrong if she was going to use those bricks like that day. But she spent 2 weeks without using the bricks. So yaliazi yiyewo ngaganyo okula muzukuru we ekyebiri okitegeera. Nazilezawo for 2 weeks ngatazikozeseza. If she had given me and then in that week, like 4 days later, I got money. So I would have paid her money and then she would have gotten bricks. You get it? So, but what I'm trying to bring is that when you're suffering alone. Whether your parent asked you to have 5 kids or to have a kid at a time you are not ready, she will not even acknowledge the fact that she helped you. She told you to have kids at the time that she told you, over to have the number of kids that you have. That's one thing you need to understand. We need to embrace the culture of individuality, knowing that when you're happy, you get happy with the community, but when you're sad alone. Bantu bange extra eri wano simanyi oba efudde bufi naye erabikanga efudde obufi sijja gibalaganyiriza obalaganga omuntu nanyiniyo ali ku live eno naye mbaga nti mugula extra ino mumpulirize eri kubbala agivudde namo bagenze leeta mafuta oba agenze yita makanika mukama yamanyi. Hi Pasco, Arthur, we want a greet and meet. I'm thinking about it seriously, by the way, you guys. But most of the guys here are abroad. kati obata iminganga bonna we bali bannange. But I'm thinking about it very seriously. I'm thinking about it very seriously. We will have it sometime to come. Jangu Eren jangu nze sigoba bagenyi. Naye wange tewali comfortable. Nze ndi hustler. Wange tewali comfortable. Chobola siyita bagenyi. When my house finally gets complete, hawuja kuba nsobola okuyita abagenyi. Gambye monje. Nje tuliye chimere. Thank you, October. So I don't know if you guys make sense of the conversation that we are having of the cultural shift. We need to pick the good aspects of the culture and we need to also drop the bad dimensions of the culture that they had. And we all know the bad dimensions of culture, and we all know the good dimensions of culture. Our parents sort of had the planning. Now, yeah, I think they had the love for children. They had the love of having more children than having a better life. Because no sanganga family mulimu abana bangi naye nga n'ekyo okulya nga balya kimu. And our parents normalized the suffering. That was suffering. Why would you have kids nga mulya kyeggulo kyokka oba kya misana kyokka? I support your judge. She had already planned and made up her mind to bring her bricks, and then you wanted her to go out of her way to make you happy. Arthur, I have ever borrowed money for someone? No. But my judge knew I could give her the money. Me, I had my money. Saina nyingi nyo na ye mitwale ebiri. Chovola I could easily go to someone else and they give me that money. And I paid before the week ended. You can imagine on Monday I was borrowing 20k, but by Friday I had a 1 million on my account. Which take it. So she knew the kind of person she was. But the aspect, I'm not saying she was wrong though, Emma. But what I'm trying to say is that when you're suffering, you suffer alone. That's why you need to make individual decisions. My network is dragging my picture. So when sometimes we see a picture that is bad, it's because of the network. So when you're suffering, you suffer alone. If you have a wife, you suffer alone with your wife. That's why I'm against the men that marry women, and they marry women they don't trust at all. Like, you're going to be suffering with this woman, and then when you get some good news, you finish your house, you're going to do a housewarming and invite other people. Why don't you just do a dinner with your wife, candlelight dinner? Because I don't know if I make sense. When you're during the bad times, other people will be laughing at you, and during the good times, they will be laughing with you, and then they'll go again and again say, as he did then. Why didn't they refuse to come? A Central Forex, you'll get a car. A car is one of the easiest things to get, as long as you know how to pick one. Hey Arthur, so long as someone is working, it's God who determines our destination. Hassan, I don't want to kind of be a bearer of bad news. As long as you're working, it's your decisions that determine where you end up. That's what I believe. I personally believe that God blessed us all in certain aspects. God gave us all capabilities, and if you handle your capabilities right, you can never go wrong. You get? But I also believe that God is not going to touch you akujewa na akuzewano. Yakuwa amagulu n'emikono, for example, nakuwa obwongo n'amaaso n'amatu n'ennyindo, for you to know the right things to do. I personally believe that it's your decisions that lead you to where you are. And I can tell you that everything that has gone wrong in my life, I can trace the steps back and I know where I got wrong. You get? I can know. Me, I don't want to give away the power that God gave me. God gave me the power. We are back. I think now we'll try to stick to the Airtel network. MTN has kind of failed us. But then the Mokodukamu network we're back on. Hassan, I'm a very staunch Catholic. But I can tell you that I differ from the belief system that we were raised in. We were raised in the belief system. That's also a cultural shift, by the way, in my world. And I'm teaching my kids the same. That if you step in the wrong place, you can get bitten by a snake, or you can step on the nail. You get? When you control yourself, God also limits you, and God always examines us through challenges. I personally believe, and I've seen it true in my life, Hassan, that every challenge was caused by me. And trust me, I've seen it. You go left when you should have gone right, things will go wrong. You go right when you should be going right, things will go right. But that's my belief. You don't have to take it. I don't want to blame Satan for things going wrong. You get? Because when things go wrong, I know. Me, I can trace my steps. I can trace my steps. That's why I'm very careful before I make any decision. I'm very careful before I make any decision. Because I know God gave me that power. He's there with me, but He gave me the power to make a decision. That's why when it's time for you to make the decisions that involve you, like killing another person or abortion, God is not there to direct you. You get? He knows you know what's right and you're going to do what's right. You get? So that's my belief system. That's my belief system. I witnessed how they treated her. No, I personally know that what she did is right to a certain extent, because I found a way either way. It probably made me a better man, a stronger man. But the point here is that you struggle alone. You struggle, because when I got the 1 million, I gave my judge some money. Because I had some money, so I gave her some money. So that's also something you need to understand. Arthur, what here driving, but can't take my eyes off the road at read comments. It was an experience. Then also the control. I don't drive fast. I don't drive fast. That's the first control. Of course, my speed is above average. But sirwana na motoka ninga inaje njitwara je bajintumie. Like now I'm going very slow. I'm going at 10 kilometers per hour. At 10 kilometers per hour, what can go wrong, sincerely? At 10 kilometers per hour, what can go wrong? Let me show you. I'm driving at 10 kilometers per hour. Let me show you how I brake. I'm going to brake. That's how you brake at 10 kilometers per hour. Kati, at 10 kilometers per hour, sincerely. You get? I think it's also about experience. It's also about experience. Excuse me a minute. Kamalo kurangira omusajja. Sebo. Wagana okwocha ya akantu kan kagude ne kasenda birwamu. Kenna gamba okwocha yo mpoliza sokolete kufuru. Ye. Tojja na kujja. Nze njagadde kula. Sorry, someone was calling me and they took my network off. Hi Abby, I hope you're doing well. So I totally understand you guys that my belief system is a little different from other people's belief systems. Okay? But we all believe that God gave us, that we should use, like understanding the environment around us. God will not come and understand the environment for you. He knows what's going on, but he cannot come and understand things for you. You need to understand the things that are going on and also know how to take advantage of these things, or how to use them to your advantage. I think personally I've started to learn this thing. Of course, later on in life, if I had learned this in my 20s, not even the millionaire by now. Because millionaire in Uganda, even if you have 2 million, you have a millionaire. Billionaire probably. Martha kankulaga nyumba ya boxi.
yino yo bagikubye ka plaster mugirengera. That's the house we visited last time netulaba interior. Yeah, they did plaster and all that. So enyumba ya box ebeera very lovely. If ate ngera finishing kimanyi tannaggwa, but it's a very lovely house. Arthur, when you're talking to people, you talk like my uncle. Naye ayinamu ku ttooke. Sirinaamu, sinnaba kyobula mbuga kolola ya $5,000,000, sinnafuna ttooke. But when I get my talk, I'm buying a crown. Era bwe mundaba nga nguze crown nga mumanya Arthur ettooke lyaweze. Yeah. Bwe mundaba nga nkoze broadcasting nga ngikoledde mu crown, mumanye Arthur yawezezaamu katooka katonotono, because still I will not go to the bone, but I'll buy a crown for someone. And the fact that I can afford a crown even from someone. Naye abaana bavuga picho baba baagala kufa. Kati omwana kantu katono nnyo kamukanga aba agudde. Kyokka baavu. Okitegeera. Most of the guys that ride motorcycles, even in my area, bava mu family enjavu, bo bennyini baavu, bazivuga nga abaagala okufa. Like the moment he gets an accident, atandika okunenya sitaani. Okitegeera. Naye nga busiru bwe. Butaba na magezi bwe sijja gamba busiru. Butaba na magezi. Like you need to know that when you overspeed on a motorcycle, in case you fall, you're going to get a very big damage. But the kid bypassed me. Kid, I think about 17 years, riding a motorcycle at a speed of about 60 kilometers per hour on a Maram road. 60 kilometers per hour. That guy is going like 10, 15 kilometers per hour. The other kid was going 60. Kato yomwana, embuzi nesara bweti. Abewa bayinza n'okusimentaana kuba ayinza obutawona. Those kinds of houses are for our generation, definitely, and they save money. Kati mwamba takyasoboka. That house you see, to do mwamba on that box house, it would cost you about 20 million. Naye your box yakozesa million nga 5 to do box. Thanks for taking safety first. Some people don't wear seat belts on Maram roads. Unagi. I think it's a habit. For me, it's a habit. Abana mbaraba bamba de Easter. Bagenzeko mu town. You guys, you see that we still have land this way. But of course, that's someone's farm. But this land is big. Still, land is from this way, all the way that side, and then that's a farm. So this way we still have land, and then we have a Mogaga that dug the road for us. Yeah, usually midday. That's why you see that you find a border guy, he wants to pass where the car will pass. You also don't want to go to an uncomfortable spot, and yeah, so you'll be stuck there. No, it's not a flat, it's a normal house. Box houses are normally a little taller than Mamba houses. Nabondo baba la kasolya ka agondi ka kasolya ka mwamba je kabera nabo je bakomya amatafali gaabo. Yeah, so for that cultural shift, I hope you guys have understood the cultural shift that I was talking about, and you have understood where to copy. See that farm there, it belongs to an army man. Yeah, but I think it's the city council that dug this road because by walala je baalimye. So si mugagga. Uraba bagenda ko mu katawuni kapo mugirabye. There's something about that love when there is no expectations. You both walk, nobody expects a ride. Yeah? You just put on your clothes and go to the town, drink a soda, play pool, yeah? Talk to kids, and then go back home. There's something special about that kind of love. Of course, me, I cannot afford that kind of love anymore. We all need people that dream. So I'm quite sure that even the men these days, Kati Mwamba yo. You guys can't see it properly, and yeah, the angle. Yeah. Love in poverty. Not love in poverty. And by the way, Central Forex, poverty is relative. For you, what you take as poverty is not poverty for someone else. You get,
For some people, being out of poverty is being able to afford a meal. As long as they can afford a meal consistently for 365 days a year, they can afford the 3 meals. They are not poor. For them, they don't need umeme, they don't need to have a boda or a car, they don't need to have a house with tiles. As long as they have a roof over their head, they are not poor. So poverty is relative and wealth is relative. You remember when we were talking about poverty in the US? Like in the US, young people as young as 17 drive cars. Here, people buy cars at 30. Of course, now the culture shift. People buy cars before they build houses. In the past, people first built houses before they bought cars. So there is that cultural shift. But I believe it's not the best. So I personally believe that as a young person, your priority should, especially for men. For women, that's a different case because you're going to get married and live in your husband's house. But for men especially, I think your priority should be in owning a home if you hope to have kids. Now, if you don't want to have kids ever, just buy your cars and enjoy your life and rent your houses. Go to Nali and rent houses at 1 million. Because you're not going to be accountable to any child. Like no child is going to say, Daddy, wachite watuzimbira. So just build. So there is this person here. Yazimbye ekikomera ng'ekyabazungu. Ekyekikoma obajja kumubba. But the house is beautiful though, eh? That mwamba. Bajja kumubba era kyemanyi bw'anaatuuka Kampala ekikomera agenda kyongerako. In Kampala, when you build a chikomera, it has to be tall. Hard for someone to climb up. Ozimba ekyo ekikomera ng'omwana wa P1 wakibuuka. So there's that thing. Olina akantu koyogera when you find a reckless border. Omulabye. My father says the same. Naye kansesa. And Uganda abasajja ba border over their brains go out the moment they sit on that thing. Arthur, I saw the Mark Musota review. Naye mama, the reviewer was laughing at his own car. You can't love it, but it's nice, a nice car, though not VVTI. But there is a review of the Mark II that I have, Martha. Have you seen it? Of course, I was reviewing the Mark II Grand, but I think I talked about the history of the Mark II. Of course, I don't use all those terms of simanya horsepower, simanya bichi, ebyo sibyogere bituyamba fenga bana Uganda. Me, when I'm talking about cars, I talk about the things that are important to us. So I don't want to throw around jargons that people don't even understand, that they will not even make sense. So I did a review of a Mark II Grand, and the Mark II Grand is basically like the Musota, which there is just that it's the new model, much more comfortable. It has a sexier body and all. Yeah, but they are basically the same car. So you can go and watch that one as well. It's dark there. You're not the Pearl of Africa. Yeah, the Pearl of Africa. Yeah, Kapimu Kadava cold. You see the sky, it's like my network. Mukama asasire Uganda. Choka we have Bulongoti near. But you'll be surprised even with the Bulongoti. And now you guys, I don't know if I showed you this. I'm fascinated by this. Every time I drive here, you see all that green. I guess you see why they call it the Pearl of Africa. All that green. And then I showed you the plots that are on sale here. Is a million. Sorry, now I had to reconnect to MTN. I think the network is telling me to see water because it's dark. Eh? It's even dark, so I have to see water. It's dark. Eh? It's even dark, so I have to see water. But after talking about King Chikomera, last time I was in a taxi, I was arguing with one Christian. Mbuno, it's not a godly to see a Chikomera on your house. It's not godly. Where does God set a Chikomera? At the time the Bible was written, Chikomera tebyali trend. because people are still probably trustworthy. But nange ka darkness koma kalaba. I should say bye bye to you guys. Kanyangwing and then parking wari, and I go through the names. There is a certain kind of darkness that even Samsung S20 cannot take care of. Kanyangwe, and I park and I could see what you people. But I thank you for being part of this broadcast. Together, call a life venture. Nange chaka kangende mu gym kole paka sawe mu. Fana no konko wenyi no kubeera. Happy Easter, guys. Wena jolly. If you're Muslim, of course. If you're Adventist, of course, you guys don't celebrate Christmas. Like I think I'm going to work myself. I will work on it tomorrow. Ngenda case bila yokano. I'm going to find a way. I'm going to do it tomorrow. Kana kantonka sibewana, so that when it's dark, you guys can actually see me like an angel. Yeah, so you guys, thank you very much for being part of this broadcast. I don't take it for granted. Wadabamo movud deco. So you see, like I'm going to be like an angel when I fix this. So even pastors are having personal security and guns. Yeah. So let me go through the names. I realized when the network went off, most of you actually went off. Martha, Emma, Bam Kakea, aka Vincent, Barikudembe Joseph, Nasasira Pius. He's asking me, do you have Easter here? Akosaka Ibambi Pius, I'm really sorry. Yes, we have dinner. We have Easter. We're going to celebrate. Of course, Emmanuel Mukisa the second, Tuina Babidi. Then we have Nathan, and then we have James Chirwana, and then we have Alan Makanika Wafoya, Bana Makanika Muruzungu, and then we have Jekate Kukuwa Demuka Mori October, and then we have Champion Morgan, Salmin, Paul Banalia, Innocent Mugabe, Central Forex, Niko Kaziwe, and Adventure, Gaetano. You guys have been many. Bambi Mwebali. Charles Sevaduka, Moses Adams, Uthman Sozi, of course some guys came late. Some people that came later on. Edwin Mugerwa, have I spoken about you? Thank you very much. Pasco Joseph, October, I talked about you. Abi Bukenya. Yeah, I think those are the guys that have engaged today. Thank you very much. Namwabali Mukamori, I don't take it for granted that you actually come and be part of these broadcasts. Data wange GB number, now you have used 2 GBs. I don't take it for granted. Simon Peter, I think Simon Peter. Yeah, yesterday I realized all the great men in the wherever Seneca, Plateau, all those guys had beards. Even Jesus had a beard. Even Moses had a beard. Even Abraham had a beard. So I'm growing the beard to see if I can emulate them even in greatness. But anyway, guys, have a happy Easter. I'm not going to do a broadcast tomorrow. Let's meet on Monday. On Monday, we are strictly starting the Men and the Cars broadcast together for 5 days, and that's what we're going to be focusing on. Various topics to help us as men, okay, understand the concepts of cars, so that we don't make some of the mistakes that we have been making as men. So, and of course, even other aspects of life, but you need to understand, I'm not going to be here so just understand that we will talk about other aspects of life for men, but it will be important for us to understand those aspects also affect our lives and the kinds of cars we end up driving. I don't know if I make sense, but anyway, see you Monday morning 7:15 a.m. Yeah, I'll probably be heading out to work. It's Easter Monday, but I have work then. I wish you the very best Easter. May God bless you. Ciao.